of Escapers. I'm Caroline Allison, and we're here at the Angel Summit in Denver, Colorado. And I have some expert Twitterers that we're talking to today. We've got Chris Kauza. Chris, can you say hi?
Hi.
And we've got Tubden Comerford.
Hi, everybody.
And Chris and Tubden spend a lot of time on Twitter, and as you heard from Mike O'Neill a little earlier today, he rated Twitter as the number 2 top social networking site online. So I wanted to talk with Chris and Tubden briefly and just ask them a couple questions about what it is they really love about Twitter. So Chris, why don't we start with you?
Sure.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you found Twitter and what is it that keeps you engaged?
Sure. I first started using Twitter about a year ago. I first heard about it on an NPR story that was profiling it, which I thought, NPR talking about Twitter, and I got to check it out. And so I signed up for an account. It was free. It took about 15 seconds. And I didn't really use the tool very much at all. And I was like, well, what's it about? It's just another IM client. What's the big deal? Maybe it's good for being at a conference or something. In the last 8 months, I've actually gotten a lot of value out of Twitter. For example, I tend to hear about things that are happening in the world about 2 to 3 hours before it appears online on the internet in general or in a news service. Earthquakes are a big one. Market moves are a big one. But it's also a lot of fun. Just even at conferences like this one, for example, tweeting, those are the messages, about what the speakers are saying. So there were some sessions today, for example, that I couldn't attend because they're at the same time. I was able to follow them on Twitter.
Oh, that's great. So Tubden, what's your story with Twitter? What keeps you engaged? How did you find it originally?
I actually don't remember how I found it, but I signed up 6 months ago, I think, something like that. And I didn't use it very much until about 2 months ago, and was asked by Mike O'Neill to create a Twitter class. Now, I have taught the advanced LinkedIn class, and I'm very big on LinkedIn, and Mike wanted me to become a Twitter expert. So I just dove in, feet first, up to my eyeballs in Twitter, absolutely loving it, and seeing what the rage was about and seeing how powerful it was. And I feel really close to my community. I use a program called TweetDeck, and TweetDeck allows me to segment the groups that I watch. So I have all the people in my personal life on one deck, and I have people involved with Angel Capital in one and Raw Food in another. And so I can watch what's going on in each of my communities, and I can watch the whole Twitter stream, right? People call it Twitterverse. And so I have my Twitter stream, which is thousands of people, and it kind of mimics, I think, how people think, right? So it's kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, kind of monkey mind all over the place and bouncing back and forth. And I see trends happening, things that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. I don't watch TV, I don't read newspapers, and so every once in a while something cool shows up on Twitter, and I click the link and I find things that I never would have been exposed to, products, events, people, and it's a lot of fun seeing who other people are following. So I went to some of my friends to look at Art Brock was on earlier, and Art follows certain people, and I was able to find out who he followed, so I started following them.
That's great. So Twitterverse, that sounds very powerful. So Chris, can you tell me a little bit about your Twitterverse? I mean, who are these Twitterers?
So my Twitterers tend to be a lot of social media people who are involved in Web 2.0 types of companies or advertising or PR, which is interesting because that's not my background. My background is more technology and business startups and funding companies, things like that. So it tends to be a lot of people like that. In fact, you can follow me with just the @ Chris Kauza, ChrisKauza. And if you follow me, then you'll see all the things that I'm talking about. And you can also find out who I'm following and maybe find out things they're talking about too.
Okay, well, great. So, Tubden, you've talked about who's in your Twitterverse, but what I'd really like to know is what are the takeaways? Have you made money off Twitter? What's in it for you? What value are you getting out of it? Because both of you guys are, well, I mean, let's face it, I mean, they're Twitter addicts. So can you tell me, what are the takeaways? How much time are you spending? What are you getting out of it?
I spend probably 4 hours a day or so on Twitter, or tweeting. So I rarely go to the Twitter. I rarely go to the Twitter website. I use a program called Twirl to interact with people on Twitter and TweetDeck as well. But what I noticed was how much money I was spending on things that I found out about on Twitter. And so I thought, I'm really, I'm fairly frugal, and if they're getting me to spend money, how can I position myself and what I'm doing so that people spend money on what I'm doing? And that's what I've really been investigating, is how can I create a sales and marketing engine that will sell the things that I want to sell and sell the things my friends want to sell to people on Twitter.
So that's sort of like a Twitteronomy, if you got that. Twitter economy. So, Chris, what about you?
Well, I haven't made any money directly from Twitter, but I've made a lot of connections with people whom I ordinarily wouldn't have met, and through those connections, we're doing business now. There's also an application, a new one that's come out called Magpie. Haven't really checked it out too much or played with it. It kind of the gist of it is you let this company basically send targeted advertisements to the people who follow you, and supposedly you can make some money doing that. It's not something I'm probably going to do, but I know other people are checking it out, so that might be a way some of your viewers could make some money.
Okay, well, cool. So these guys are really, well, I don't know, the kings of Twitter. I mean, you guys both have a lot of friends on Twitter, and you follow how many thousands of people, Tubden?
2,000.
So Tubden is following 2,000 people, and Chris, you've got
Only
more.
about 400 or 500, but others have many, many more.
Right, yeah. So these guys know what they're talking about, in other words. So anyway, and one last question. Can you just tell me a little bit about your backgrounds, Tubden and Chris?
My background is mostly high tech, network engineering, network security, marketing, marketing consulting, marketing strategy, angel investing, that kind of stuff.
And my background is a mix of tech and non-tech related. Now what we're doing though is helping companies grow, put together strategic partnerships, get funding, things like that.
Okay, well, great.
And please follow me. Follow me at Tubten, Thubten. I'd love to find you following me, all of you.
Okay. And you can follow us at Viscape as well. So that's it for now, and I hope you got something out of the segment today. So take care.